Kids in the candy shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
I think we just need to fade to black, don't we? Hi, it's Todd here from Todd's Workshop and Todd Cutler, and I have got Matt Easton and Skallagrim with me today. So I thought this is a fantastic opportunity to get all of my Albion swords out, and then they can have a look, we can have a talk and see what happens. So guys, come on down and check this out. Basically, I didn't want them to see this before they get here. So they're about to walk in, we're going to get their reaction on camera and see what happens. So if you come this side, Skal.
That's a lot of Albions.
So how many can we choose each?
You can have more, Matt. You can have more. So it's quite a thing, isn't it? So basically, I've got so many Albions because I make scabbards for them. That's what I do. Not officially for Albion, I just make scabbards and sell them. So this film actually has got nothing to do with Albion at all. I just thought it was a fantastic opportunity. Anyway, I use them as patterns for making my scabbards, which is why I've got them. So pick up something interesting and talk about it.
Skal, do you want to go first?
Have you got a favourite, actually?
Well, I've always found this one fascinating because it's so odd.
Yeah,
You know, like,
so it's the Doge, I think. From
The
memory.
Doge,
I
yeah.
might get some of the names wrong.
It is the Doge, yeah.
this,
So it's based on some in the Doge's palace in Venice.
Yeah. Actually, Matt, why don't you step around to this side?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that! Athleticism. So you know what? I'm going to show this to camera, actually. So we've got this very unusual shaped pommel here. Obviously the knuckle bow and the finger ring, and then this sort of stopping lug on the back here, which I don't know of any other blades. I can't think of any other format that has that.
Yeah. Other than parrying hooks on a large two-handed sword, it's not very common.
Mm-hmm. May I?
Yeah,
Because I've
sure.
never held this.
Oh, really?
And I really wanted to grab that one as well. So something I love, there's two main things I absolutely love about this sword. Firstly, it's super advanced for its time, but it's got an advanced blade, you know, with multi-fullering, and you've got this weird thing that we'd normally only find on a two-handed sword later, not at this time. So that's super weird. Then you've got the finger ring, but then you've also got the knuckle bow. And yeah, okay, knuckle bows have been around since, well, the earlier 1400s at the very earliest. But I just love the fact that it's there. So what the end result of what you've got is you've got a one-handed sword, which has basically got all of the protective qualities and handling qualities of a 16th century side sword. And you know, you could use this quite comfortably like a saber. I mean, you could use saber. Yeah, it handles beautifully. It's got beautiful feeling. I love the fact it's got a hexagonal blade. Hexagonal blades cut like a dream. I really, really like them. So it's just an awesome sword and should get a lot more love. I think because it looks weird, people don't get as excited about it because they're like...
I was never sure what to think about it aesthetically. Like, I've always liked that it has so much going on.
Yeah.
Is it the prettiest? Not really, but it is super fascinating.
But I love the fact that it's weird, and it's like the more alternative. If you prefer alternative music than mainstream, then that's your kind of sword.
That's why I like it.
So Matt, pick another.
Oh, how do I pick?
Walk down. What we got?
So we go.
I do like that. You see, I like short single-edged blades.
Yeah, I do. I love a messer.
So that's the soldat.
Old-fashioned.
So let's show that to the camera. So Albion soldat. So messer dating to around 1500, I think, or a smidge before, I think. There we go.
Yeah. So I love single-edged blades. Not to say I don't love double-edged blades, but there's just something about that shape which just makes me go, oh yeah.
There's something design-wise about the aesthetic of curves moving into curves that is just immediately attractive.
And I love the fact that you've got a bevel on this part of the straight back edge, and then you've got another bevel on the clipped point. I don't know, there's something about the intent of curved swords. They just kind of, they look like they're in motion, I guess. A straight blade is just a straight object, whereas these look like they've got some intent and motion to them. You instantly know what they're going to do, kind of thing. And I just love the shape of these knife style grips. You know, I love Bowie knives, I love Bauernwehr, and I love Langmesser.
Thoughts, Skal?
Same. Yes, I also like them for
so we all
those reasons.
like that.
It's a fantastic self-defense sword. right?
Yeah.
Because it's shorter, so it doesn't get as much in the way.
Quicker to get out.
It's quicker to draw. It
Yeah.
has that additional guard only on one side, so
Yeah.
you don't need to worry about it bumping into you or encumbering you in any way. It being single-edged, you still have the option for less lethal strikes, with the spine or with the flat, or you can do all kinds of shenanigans
Yes. Yeah.
with that. Particularly, this is kind of an interesting impact zone because it's a corner there. You can thrust well with it.
The Italians and Spanish sometimes call this a cat's claw. A sharpened
sense.
in a curve like that, they call a cat's claw.
I can see that. Right, I am going to go back to the beginning because a lot of my love affair with swords began reading Roman books, basically Roman fiction. And yeah, that's my thing. So I'm going to go back to an Electus, which is this one. Now I'm just going to show this to camera. Just so you know, I made this scabbard for a client years ago. It is now for sale, so if you want to contact me, this whole sword and scabbard rig is for sale. So what you've got is a mains Gladius style blade, so it's a leaf blade in essence. I think it's a holly handle and walnut pommel and guard. And then pewter decorative plates on here. So it's a lovely piece. Anyway, contact me if you're interested. So from my point of view, I don't think I'm a particularly competent swordsman. And the longer a blade is, the more damage I can do to anybody around me. So I've always favoured shorter pieces. I don't know. I like that curve. I like the length of it. It's small, it's handy. And I think, in honesty, it doesn't go any deeper than the Romans, were just really cool. And if they had it and it was cool, I want it. I think that's all it is. So in terms of actually manufacture, it's an easy thing to make, really. The swords don't get much easier than these. Stays fairly thick up to the end, so you've got quite a lot of armour penetrating ability on what is actually a visibly very needle sharp point, but is relatively robust.
And they're a great shape, aren't they? They're just so iconic. The minute you see a Gladius, you know it's a Gladius.
Yeah, you know what it is, for sure. And they use it to great effect, obviously. So it's another one of those cases where it's about how you use it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's short, but if your tactics work accordingly, then yes, this is all you need, really. And it's interesting that they made it so wide. They didn't have to. They could easily have gone the route that they went later on in history and made it narrower and thicker.
Yes.
But grab the Pompeii.
Yeah.
There we
This
go.
way, yeah. I've always liked the wider one. Also because there's a bit of a recurve to the edge,
It
which
just
is
looks
beautiful.
more menacing. But I mean, I'm not sure how important it is, but when you're trying to immediately disable somebody, whatever that is, 60 millimeters is better than 40 millimeters for a wound. So
It's a
I
larger
can see
one.
why they went wider.
Also, the edge bevel will be more shallow
Yeah,
with
yeah.
that.
Yes.
So Scal, your turn again.
Choices. Actually, I'm going to go over there
Oh. What you got?
and grab the big one.
Oh. And I can't remember which that is. Yeah, I can't remember. Let's show it to camera. Right. Sorry, everybody concerned. Can't remember this one. Is it the Archduke? Don't know.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. It might be.
Might be the Archduke, might
Archduke,
not be.
maybe.
But here we are. So, great sword of war, and it is a monster. It's pretty heavy as well. So, it's kind of a monster in all ways. Blade looks to be about 7 millimeters thick at the hilt. 30 centimeter handle, something like that. So it's a big boy.
Yeah. You can definitely be a bodyguard with that Montante style, and this is not a nimble little fencing sword. I mean, it is very nimble for the size, but you would use it in large sweeping strokes, and basically the idea is to clear the area so that nobody wants to approach you, because I mean, even if you just passed and you're coming around for another one, technically that's an opportunity to go in, but the thing has so much reach that it's not easy to actually move in quickly enough that the big sword can't catch you on the way back. So yeah, it's not exactly something you would carry for self-defense on the street. It's a little bit large, but
I mean, it is also, as I said at the beginning, it's a heavy sword. You know, that's a big thing. I'm not sure how you could
Not
reasonably...
for the size, but
No.
yeah, I mean, it is.
But
of
I'm not
course.
sure how you could
It's
reasonably
an interesting
wear
size
it.
though, isn't it? Because it's not as big as a true Spadone
No.
Yes.
montante. But it's bigger than
Bigger
a
than a
normal
longsword.
longsword. It's basically like a longsword on steroids, isn't it?
Actually, hold on a sec. I'll just pick up the Regent, which actually is probably going to be my one next.
It's kind of a non-Scottish claymore, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
So-
about the same. Yeah, same kind of blade.
So Regent, yeah, see, it's not actually that much longer than the Regent.
Although the Regent will only cut well about here,
Yes.
whereas
That
this
cuts-
will be cut all the way up because
Yeah.
it's got a
Yeah.
different cross section and
Effectively, you have a lot of reach.
yeah.
But it's funny actually because yeah, visually I'm going big sword. But it's not that much bigger. I picked up the Regent, which is this one here. So quite an aggressive, pronounced fishtail pommel. Other than that, you've got this sort of like Gothic swell and grip. What is it? It's dated around 1460, 1480, something like
Yeah, yeah.
that. Hologram blade, really nicely done. So it's a lovely piece. Again, I love the fact that you've got a lot of length on here, not that much weight because of the hollow grinding. A lot of stiffness because that's coming in at about 9mm at the hilt, something like that. Which is one of those things, especially if you're used to reenactment swords where they're like 3.2mm all the way down. To see a blade that thick, you know, it's very surprising the first time you pick them up. And the fact that it's that thick and doesn't feel unbalanced, doesn't feel horrible. So it's a lovely thing. And again, you know, I base an awful lot of my decisions on what it looks like. But what I will say through all of this is, although this is focusing on Albion swords, I of course make my own custom swords and I sell my own swords under the Todd Cutler brand as well at a much lower price. So I had to get that in there. But anyway,
Have you held that one before?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
A friend of mine has this and brought it over once. I love the way the blade looks. The hollow grind
Yeah.
is really nice.
The way it catches the light is yeah.
Yes,
but
exactly.
you know, we were talking about curves earlier and some of the other stuff we've done. There is something about a hollow ground blade that is just immediately more interesting, more exciting.
It is. It very much is.
It also echoes some of the things going on with armour at this time as well. So fluting in various forms. When you say fluting, people always think of later German Gothic armour, but you find fluting on English and French armour and Italian export armour, and I think it's very much that Gothic architectural look that they're trying to fit into all sorts of things. And I think sometimes we just look at the mechanical advantages of doing a hollow grind, but I think sometimes it's more than that. I think sometimes they did, you know, like the pommel, they made things certain ways because they liked the look of them, and I'm sure that hollow grinding plays into that as well. Yeah. So my pick, actually talking about fishtail pommels, is the Burgundy. So a number of reasons I love this. I love the look of fishtail pommels, and it's not a problem. There's no conflict with the hand because it's one-handed.
So yeah, so in a way this, everything we said about aesthetics works for this just like it does with the Regent. So it's effectively a single-handed version, same kind of sword, same kind of period really, obviously smaller.
Yeah. So I picked that for a number of reasons. One, because I primarily prefer one-handed swords to two-handed swords, to use anyway. But it's got a Oakshot Type 18 blade, which to me is the best of both worlds, because you've got an acute point for thrusting into armpits and gaps in armour, or just thrusting in general, but additionally you've got these bowed out edges which give better cutting performance on most targets anyway, but also I just love the look of it. It's got that kind of organic leaf-like look that reminds me of almost of Bronze Age, Bronze Age leaf-bladed swords. I have to be honest, I don't actually love the crossguard.
Oh, I do.
Me too.
Yeah, I do. You too?
Yeah, I like the.
So I actually prefer the Lancaster, which I can't see here, but I've got a Lancaster. It's got a little ball ends, kind of domed
I don't
ends.
like those.
But the reason is because they're like the Castillon swords, and I love the Castillon group of swords. And these ends make it. There's a I can't remember where it's based on, but there's a museum which has got these ends, and I think it's an Italian sword. Probably this type of sword most of them were made in Milan and exported from there, but all over Europe. But I absolutely love the pommel. I love the grip. I love the fact that it's an what is that, octagonal grip? Hexagonal? One, two.
Right.
Yeah. But I much prefer angular grips to round or oval grips.
So do I, actually.
And
They
that's
stay
one of the
put.
reasons I like Mesa as well, because they've got essentially rounded rectangle grips. They just feel better in my hand. So yeah, I love everything about this sword, although I wouldn't personally have chosen that guard. But everything else about it I absolutely love, and it handles like an absolute dream. You could, whether you're on horseback, on foot, with a buckler or shield, or just by itself, or half swording and armour, it's just absolutely lovely. I absolutely adore that. Gorgeous sword.
Result.
I mean, aesthetically, the fishtail pommel, I agree, it's great. It's beautiful, definitely like the aesthetics of the fishtail pommel. On this one, yeah, won't bother me at all because it's a bit elongated. If it's very close to the hand, that can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like I said. And I find, particularly when the fingers rest on it, that, like you said, that digs in. But it's also when you hit something and the shock travels through, that really beats up your hand.
Yeah.
But in this case, you have plenty of space, so it's not an issue. And yeah, I do like the shape on these ends there.
Hi, I've just interrupted this film for another Todd Cutler related interesting fact. And today is the Wallace rondel. It's a massive 15th century rondel dagger, absolutely huge, but it's not absolutely massive in weight. Hollow rondels, really common feature on daggers. Anyway, this and loads of other similar pieces available on toddcutler.com. Back to the film. Right, I'll tell you what I shall pick. I suppose we have to talk about the Type 14 because everybody likes the Type 14.
Well, it's the most looks like a computer game sword, doesn't it? It's
So, here we got a Type 14, so characterised really by the blade, broad blade, but swelling out towards the hilt here. This one's got a bronze pommel, steel guard. Not that common, but it's the sort of thing they used to do. Again, I can't really say very much more than aesthetically I've just loved it. I love that double swoop on the curve. I love its short nature. I've got no idea what it is. The longer the sword is, less interested I am in it. I'm not a fan actually of the bronze pommel at all. It sort of doesn't work for me, but it's fine. Loving the guard on this one, loving the double fullering. It's just a lovely, small, handy. It's a nice compromise between cut and thrust. Really, it's got a little bit of both. Well, it's got quite a lot of cut, but obviously it's limited by the length. But I don't know. That's my input to it.
well, and the beauty of having something
Everybody loves
shorter, a little bit like a Gladius, the beauty of having something shorter is you can have the width and the pointy end, because you're not having to worry about also reaching that kind of minimum reach as well. I do love them. I have to be honest, they wouldn't be my first choice to use because of the reach disadvantage. So yeah, in a sword and shield armoured context in the 14th century, which is where they fit in, they make sense. But personally, I prefer something with a bit more reach on it in general. But to look at as a shape, I think that is undeniably just a beautiful shape. I think it looks incredible.
Why often they're referred to as riding swords or arming swords.
Yeah.
What's the riding bit? I've read that supposedly knights wear them when they ride around the place.
So there's later on in the 16th and 17th centuries there is something from the German term I think Ritterschwert, which is a specific category of sword which is neither a court sword, a dress sword, or a war sword. It's your travelling around sword. But I don't think that really, I don't think that term, I mean, it was Oakeshott really. Like,
where did it come from?
Yeah, exactly. So there's this family of arming swords which are smaller that I think people didn't know, well, these aren't kids' swords because they don't have scaled down hilts. What are these things? Let's call it a riding sword. But I don't necessarily think it's a real thing. I think it's just that some people, for some purposes, wanted a smaller sword. But it's not specifically for riding around on. I mean, my thought is if you're on a horse, you want a longer sword, not a shorter sword.
Well, that's the established idea, isn't it?
You just gotta lean down to actually reach somewhere. Yeah, aesthetically, definitely pretty. The double fuller is nice too.
Yeah.
And I just generally like wide blades.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's something about that.
Somebody needs to do a PhD thesis on it, don't they? It's like, what is the appeal of wide blades? Because I think we all have it.
And there's no question these cut really well.
That's
right?
what I was going to
Really
say. Yeah,
easily.
for me, I think I like them because I know just how well they cut.
Yeah.
Just the wider they are, the crazier they go.
Yeah.
So
And it's like easier as well. It's like more forgiving. And
Yes.
you know, we see that with the Alexandria type, massive Type 18C blades. That they are, it almost feels like being on cheat mode. It's
Yeah.
it's like engage cheat mode. Bring me
Yeah.
the Type 18C. They just.
I will
glide
bring you a
through
Type
things.
18C.
Yeah, bring me a Type 18C because I saw you got. Is that the Principe?
Yes, I think
Yes,
so.
it is.
That
That's-
one is the
that's the one
yeoman. No, yeoman? Yeoman.
Yeah.
So the bronze hilted Type 14 is a yeoman. You said Principe?
Principe.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, Principe.
Principe, whatever it is. This one here. So Type 18C blade on it, so it's very broad, but otherwise it just sort of curves down gently towards the point. Were these based on any Alexandria ones?
So the blades are, so this is a bit of a mishmash, without being too rude. So the hilt on this is inspired by the, a combination of two swords, one in the Royal Armouries, which we replicated, but also one in the Wallace collection. So there's a two-hander in the Wallace collection, one in the Royal Armouries, and this guard and this pommel are sort of inspired by that, I believe. But Peter Johnson would be the final word on that. But as far as I can see, but the blade is very closely modelled on a group of swords which were kept in the Alexandria Arsenal for hundreds of years. They were given in tribute to the rulers of the Egyptian rulers of Alexandria, in tribute probably by I think it's the kings of Sicily. So they're predominantly Italian. There are some German, but these particular ones almost certainly made in Italy, probably in Milan. But the Alexandria swords have wheel pommels. So they've all got straight guards with little turn-ups at the end and a wheel pommel. And they Albion do the Alexandria. They do one based on that, on one of them. I think there's about, I can't remember, 40 or 50 of them surviving. In various collections. There's one in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, there's one in the Royal Armouries. But this one has got, it's basically the hilt from one set of swords, the blade from another.
I have no problem with that at all, because we have a small sample of things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got 5,000 swordsmiths working across Europe,
Yeah,
at any given period,
yeah,
there's all sorts of stuff. Now, I'm not saying that we can make completely wild off the beat things,
yeah.
but the fact that you pick various elements, as long as they're geographically, stylistically,
So
chronologically similar, I think it's fine.
if that existed in history, then the blade would have been from about 1410 and the hilt would have been from about 1450. But that's fine.
But that was done.
Yeah, that was done. So it is historically plausible. It's just not based on any one particular.
There's one, I've got to find out if it's true. You know how you hear these things and you never quite know. But apparently in the museum in Vienna, there's a Katzberger which has got a migration era blade on it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
That I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one I've tested, reviewed, damaged. So
Oh, was that the one you took a chip out
that was
of?
the one. Yes.
Ah.
Mhm.
This is a sword which you can hit from further away with only one hand with. So for me, I always feel that for a two-handed sword, you're at a basic disadvantage with that sword. And yeah, it will cut through a cow, but you need to be really close to the cow to cut through the cow.
Yeah, pesky those cows are. Pick a sword, any sword. One we talked about, one we've not. Say 2 sentences about it and why you want it.
Oh.
Oh boy.
And no fighting.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, kids in the candy shop.
Yeah. Oh.
I do like that.
Oh.
Munich.
Oh.
Landgraf in Matt's hands, he's liking.
Oh, yeah.
I think we just need to fade to black, don't we?
Oh, this is tricky.
Light.
Oh. Huh. I think it's going to be this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and for a number of reasons. One, because it feels
take it
the
to, take it to
nicest.
camera. Show them.
Let me try this one.
Although this is why I'd be dead, because I base all my choices on aesthetics.
Yeah, so I'd choose this for a number of reasons. It feels great in the hand. It tracks and moves really nimbly, really well. That pommel is really comfortable in my hand, gripping it as I like to, all the way down at the bottom. But also the blade cross section. It's a hexagon up here, and I know from experience that these hexagon, fairly flat profile blades cut really well. So it's not the most robust blade in the world, it's not the stiffest blade in the world, so it's not the best for thrusting into mail and things like this. But for an unarmoured duel, great cutting capacity all the way out to the tip, better than most of the stiffer flattened diamond cross-section blades. So I really like that. And it's also light enough that if you were using a buckler or a shield, you could use it in one hand as well. So yeah, a true hand and a half sword with good cutting ability.
Well, I'm going to go for the Chevalier, which is this one. It's a curious thing. I can't say I'm a particular fan actually of the bronze flower pommel at all, but it's the blade that does it for me. So you've got a really pronounced fuller straight down the middle, and then going into hollow grinds on each side. So it's an incredibly complicated blade to make, and that's part of the attraction. Slight flaring there as well. There's just so much detail going on in this. I just absolutely love it. As regards the rest of it, I'm not really very keen on it, to be honest, but it's completely overridden by the blade. Just absolutely adore it. And that's my one.
This weirdo needs more love. There's something about it. I think part of it is definitely that it's so ahead of its time. You know, this is basically a side sword before side swords. So I still can't decide if it's ugly or how ugly it is, or if it's cool looking. A bit of both, but it handles beautifully, and it's got a lot going on. I definitely like the hand protection. It's really the only Albion that gives you good hand protection overall. So this one, and you can even do some mean pommel bashes with that. You know I like pommels.
Thank you very much, Matt, Scal.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you very
us.
much, and I hope you've enjoyed my Albion collection. But before we finally go, don't forget, I make custom swords myself and sell production ones under the Todd Cutler brand. Bye.
I wish I'd chosen this now.
Oh, no.